Episode 77.
This brush is named the Golden Bamboo. Its tip is made from the fur of a second-grade demon beast, the Golden Crystal Ape. The shaft is a composite of gold crystal and black iron. It took 3 days and nights of refinement with both civil and martial fire during the foundation establishment stage before this brush was finally completed.
The girl stared at the object with a look of deep longing, her expression tinged with reluctance. Han Li didn't fully understand, but he knew this brush was extraordinary. It definitely had a significant history. He was not only surprised that she was willing to part with such a treasure. Was it really just for those pills?
You're truly willing to trade this brush to me. This is a rare treasure.
Han Li ran his fingers over the smooth brush handle, examining the two characters, Golden Bamboo, inscribed at its end. The young woman noticed Han Li's confusion. After a moment's hesitation, she decided to tell him the truth.
This brush is a first-class artifact from my clan, once used by a master talisman maker. But unfortunately, my brother and I have no talent for talisman crafting, so it's been wasted in our hands. My elder brother is preparing for the upcoming Immortal Ascension Assembly, but his cultivation has hit a bottleneck. He needs the power of a pill to break through. That's why we're willing to trade this item for your pill.
How is it that I've run into another person whose cultivation has hit a bottleneck? What are the odds of that?
In fact, of those preparing to compete in the Ascension Assembly's tournament, 7 or 8 out of every 10 are people stuck at a bottleneck, unable to advance any further. Because those who believe they still have untapped potential and can advance further will usually avoid the Ascension Assembly's arena competition right away. Instead, they'll go into seclusion, continuing their arduous cultivation in the hope of breaking through to the next level. That way, their chances of clearing the trials at the next assembly would be significantly greater. This created a situation where, before each Ascension Assembly, any pill that could enhance magic power became priceless and impossible to find. Han Li walked back to his building, the wooden box containing the Golden Bamboo brush tucked securely in his robes, his heart brimming with delight. He traded 3 bottles of yellow dragon pills and 4 bottles of golden marrow pills to the girl in exchange for this treasure and that bag of 7-star grass seeds. After that, he casually bought some cinnabar powder from a few other stalls, then hurried back, eager to begin his talisman crafting endeavor. Han Li returned to the small room on the 2nd floor. He laid out the talisman paper and cinnabar on the table, then took out the golden bamboo brush and began the process of crafting the mind-calming talisman. Following the method described in the Tranquil Spirit art, he slowly channeled his spiritual power through his right hand into the brush handle. Then, dipping the tip into a bit of cinnabar, he began to draw the talismanic script onto a sheet of paper. A quarter of an hour later, Han Li straightened up with a pleased expression, stretched his sore back, and gazed at the shimmering silver talisman on the table. Visually, this talisman was identical to the one Dr. Mo had used. The spiritual chi it contained was a bit fainter, but regardless, it was leagues better than the shoddy practice-grade fakes Han Li had made before. Han Li held the newly forged talisman, ready to test the spirit-calming art. But before he could even begin the incantation, the spiritual energy within the paper charm suddenly grew chaotic, showing clear signs of an imminent surge. Han Li was startled and immediately flung the talisman away. Han Li stared blankly at the talisman paper burning to ashes in midair. After a long moment, he sighed. It seems this talisman was a failure after all. Han Li was a little discouraged, but his confidence remained unshaken.
That last talisman was almost a success. I'm sure if I push a little harder and try a few more times, I'll definitely get it right.
And so, for the next half day, Han Li crafted one calming talisman after another, only to fail again and again. The talismans he managed to produce either burst into flames on their own, exploded with a small pop, or simply lost all their spiritual energy the moment the final stroke was drawn, turning into useless scraps of paper.
Damn you, heavens. You're messing with me. Out of a whole batch of 12 talisman papers, at least one should have worked. This is just a basic, low-grade calming talisman.
After saying this, Han Li felt a bit better. He tilted his head in thought, then glanced at the table where only a small amount of cinnabar and the golden bamboo brush remained. The problem wasn't with these. After all, the process of channeling his spiritual power into the brush handle had gone smoothly, and the cinnabar ink, once applied to the talisman paper, was brimming with spiritual chi. It didn't seem like a fake. Unable to figure out the reason, Han Li thought for a moment and decided to go ask the little monk if he could provide an answer. Han Li now felt that having a mentor to guide him on the path of cultivation was truly invaluable. The idea of finding a master began to take root in his heart. After hearing Han Li's complaints about his failed talisman drawing, the little monk fixed him with a stare. Seeing the monk's strange expression, Han Li felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't figure out what he'd said wrong to warrant such a stare.
I'm afraid you don't know much about talisman making, Benefactor Han.
Master Ku Sang is correct. This is my first time making talismans.
Well, among us cultivators, not many actually make their own talismans. If we need a spirit talisman, we usually just go to a local trading market to buy or trade for one. Even the members of those great families are no different.
Why is that?
It's because there are too few experienced, dedicated talisman masters, and the cost of training a qualified one is just too high. Only the major sects of cultivators have the resources to manage that. You feel pretty lousy about failing over a dozen times in a row, don't you, Benefactor Han?
Yeah, the cost of the materials alone is enough to buy several ready-made immobilization talismans.
But for a complete beginner trying to learn talisman making, it's perfectly normal to fail 100 times in a row at the start. For someone with poorer aptitude, it wouldn't be strange at all to fail hundreds of times in a row. Only after you've drawn the talisman over 1,000 times does the success rate start to climb. And that's just for drawing the same type of talisman. If you switch to a different one, the failure rate is still shockingly high. So, a qualified talisman master can't be trained without tens of thousands of practice attempts. And how many could possibly afford such a staggering waste of materials? Not even the great sects can produce talisman masters who excel beyond the beginner level. If you tried to get them to practice making intermediate talismans, even the great sects would probably go bankrupt. After all, the higher the grade of the talisman, the more expensive the materials needed to make it.
Then why are there people selling cinnabar and talisman paper at the market stalls?
Those cinnabar and talisman papers are for people who practice talisman arts.
Talisman arts?
It's just like the immobilization technique you practice. It's a type of magic that only takes effect when you use a pre-drawn talisman. The spiritual talismans used for talisman arts can't be activated with spiritual power alone. You also need to chant the incantation to cast the spell, but they're generally not complicated at all. You'll pick them up in no time. Since you need to use the same type of talisman so often, buying them just isn't cost-effective. So I started practicing how to draw talismans myself. Since I was only focusing on one type, the cost was still significant, but it was manageable. So, if you truly wish to cultivate the body-freezing art, making your own talismans is the best long-term strategy. But if you don't plan on using it often, you can just buy some to have on hand.
Thank you for your guidance, Master Ku Sang.
No need for such formalities.
That little monk is quite agreeable. If I run into any other tricky problems in the future, I can always go ask him for advice. Looks like I can't focus on practicing talisman making right now. I'll just have to buy a few binding talismans for backup when I get the chance. My eternal spring arts have already reached the peak of the 8th layer. Now that I have the mental cultivation methods for the subsequent layers, it seems it's time to break through this bottleneck and advance to the 9th. It's time to break through to the 9th layer. I should also practice those new spells I acquired. Mastering them sooner will give me a solid boost in strength.
And so, in the days that followed, Han Li spent his daylight hours in his room, swallowing pills by the handful, meditating, cultivating his ki, and practicing the eternal spring arts. At night, he would slip out to a secluded spot in the valley to drill the newly acquired spells. These spells were quicksand, freeze, levitation, entanglement, whisper, invisibility, spark, and the most difficult to master, earth spike. After over 10 days of arduous cultivation, Han Li finally broke through to the 9th layer of the eternal spring arts in the final days before the Tainan gathering concluded. This left Wu Juji and the others utterly dumbfounded. while Taoist Qing Wen praised Han Li repeatedly, calling him a true prodigy among rogue cultivators. But Han Li knew perfectly well that without downing those dozen or so pills, he would never have broken through so easily. As for those other techniques, the concealment art and the sound transmission art were both auxiliary arts similar to the spirit eye technique, and Han Li picked them up with ease. As for the whispering spell, it was the talisman technique Han Li had seen several times, one that required the use of a whispering talisman to function. The invisibility art is a common spell. It involves channeling spiritual power over the entire body, transforming one's appearance into a protective coloration that mimics the surrounding environment. The quicksand and freezing spells are both area of effect magic. One can turn earth to sand within the caster's reach, while the other can freeze any body of water solid. The power of these two spells depends entirely on the depth of the caster's magic power. In the hands of a truly powerful master, it would be no impossibility to turn 1,000 miles of fertile land into desert, or to freeze a mighty river into solid ice.